Hi guys, I'm so excited to have Kaitie Bryant with me today, sharing her blueprint story. She has such a good story to share. You're going to love it so much. So Kaitie, I just want you to kick it off. Tell us who you are, what you do, and how long you've been in business.
Awesome. Kaitie Bryant, and I have been a wedding photographer for 9 years. And I also launched in 2016 the Known Project with my husband, which is we write books, little gift books that are questions to help people know each other more deeply, and we're growing that to provide more resources to have deeper relationships in a pretty quick, little bit shallow culture that's growing. So,
Yeah. Oh, I love it so much. If you guys haven't heard of the Gnome Project, you have to check them out. We take them on road trips. I
yay!
give them as like stocking stuffers every year.
Uh,
And did you just launch an Enneagram one?
we launched an Enneagram book back in November, and then we have a marriage book coming out in 2 weeks.
Oh my goodness. We have so much to talk about. So Katie's going to share all about how the Gnome Project came about. It has a lot to do with where you were in business and kind of, but so just tell us, take us back a little bit. We first met in what, 2014?
Mhm.
Okay, so tell everybody how long had you been in photography at that point and just how you were feeling in your business and
So
life.
I had been in photography for, I was going on 4 years, and I had two small children, and had been going through the busiest wedding seasons, had built up to 33 weddings the year before, and was just really tired. Didn't feel like I was doing a good job as a mom. Didn't feel like I was doing a good job as a photographer. Just things felt like they were falling through the cracks. And I was pretty burnt out, and just needed guidance. And I heard of Shanna, and who did business coaching. And I just knew I needed someone. And it was that point of either the whole thing was just going to fall apart and I wasn't going to be able to do it anymore, or I was going to get some direction and help to know how to do it sustainably. So that's when I got in touch with you and we met up.
Yeah, so I was living in Savannah at the time. Kyle was doing a co-op in Savannah, and Kaitie was on vacation in Hilton Head. And I
Yep.
was like, let's meet at Starbucks. And we did. And we cried. And I think
Yep.
everybody was like, what's happening here? So kind of what was your aha moment at that time? What were you like, why was it not working?
Um, for me, I think I was stuck, and I didn't realize that that really I was in the driver's seat, but I wasn't managing the business like I was in the driver's seat. And what that meant is that I wasn't charging enough to make it sustainable. So I was taking on too much,
Mhm.
and then feeling burnt out, but not seeing the possibilities and the control that I did have to change things around. And
Mhm.
so you really helping me look at defining what enough was huge, of what's the amount that I need to make and how many weddings do I need to book based on that. And then it just defined and gave clarity to how I responded to emails and how I decided by what point in the year that I was done. I didn't need to book any more for that year. And then I was able to say no. And just really, that was the big change that happened: pricing, defining enough, and then establishing how I wanted to go in the future, how many I
Mhm.
wanted to do in the future.
Yeah, I love that. Because you had taken on about 40 events the year that we met, or the year before.
Yeah, and it was crazy. I just never felt, I wasn't ever sure. You get the inquiry and you're nervous and you're looking at your bank account and you just keep taking on things, and you think this is not this is not going to work forever.
Yeah. See, I hear this all the time. Like you just take on more because you're never afraid of having, like you're afraid of not having enough.
Right. All the time. Yeah.
Yeah. So before we started recording, you were talking about like as we sat down and you were looking at, I think I was just like, what do you want your life to look like? What do you want your business to look like? And just that permission to dream. And that was, I think, kind of the first step for you. Yes, you had to figure out pricing. Yes, you had to figure out your time management. But talk through just what came about when you started dreaming about your future and the business and all that.
Yeah, but that was one of the best things you had me do a life board that we came up with, and we kind of dreamed together. What are the pictures that really resonate with you, and how do you picture your life? And that, I loved that because I had so many things I wanted to pursue. And in that kind of dreaming, I knew that I was somebody who loved photography, but I had other things that I wanted to do. And I didn't know if that was possible to be. I just didn't know how much was up to me, or how much is just, this is what you do. And how I could determine the path. And you helped me really see, well, let's make that happen. How do you, I felt like you gave me the space, and then you helped me figure out, you can make those things happen, and let's figure that plan out.
Yeah, yeah. I love that. So like through that dreaming, let's just talk through. So you knew you had to get the photography kind of figured out. So you ended up what,
Price.
doubling, doubling your price. And I
Yeah.
think you cut your weddings in half, right?
I cut my weddings in half. So I had decided 15 weddings. I had been doing around 30 for a few years. And then I said, I only want to do 15. And so I kept it to that number. I looked at the price that I would need to make that work. Also, I think in talking with you, realized here's the things I don't love doing. I stopped doing family photography, which was just a huge burden lifted, just to say, okay, it's okay for me to say, here's what I do and here's what I don't do. Just because I have a camera doesn't mean I do everything. And that was huge. So that changed and just provided the stability, and really let me just go on, not autopilot, but it set things in place where it's worked on its own and not required. It's so different than those first 4 or 5 years in business.
Yeah. It's almost like you created a plan, and when you started working the plan, everybody just kind of fell in line.
Right, right. And it keeps falling in line. We just say, okay, this is what I do.
Yeah, and which is amazing because your family needs your income. Like you have
Yeah,
to have that
yeah,
income. Yeah.
yeah.
So you couldn't just like cold turkey quit. You would have to go get a job.
Right, right. And
Yeah.
I always worked I was a teacher, and I needed to know I couldn't build a photography business until it was really stable, and then I could quit teaching. So I've never, that's been different for me, where it's always been really important that I get it together.
Yeah. Yeah. Okay. So now I want you to talk about like through that, streamlining the photography process. And we have a ton of resources, guys, if you want to hear about we've had a lot of students that increase their price, decrease their workload. So much there, but I want you to talk about this dreaming process and
Yeah.
like what that led you to and how that ended up leading to the Gnome Project.
Yes. So I think that being able to streamline the photography process, just like teaching, I was a teacher and I was dreaming of becoming a photographer. And I did both until we can make that sustainable. And now I'm a photographer. And then my natural pattern is, okay, keep dreaming. What else do I feel like I want to do? And that's when I went to Blueprint, and I had goals in 2015. And one of my personal goals was, I want to start the Known Project. And I already had a name for it. I had a vision for people being known more deeply, and what kind of resources are there to help people learn to ask good questions and learn to connect. So just like that, the photography process, I had my stable income from photography. And then I started just dreaming and saying, okay, step one, over the next year, we're going to do one book and get it printed. And we're going to start a little website, and we're going to find a price that's sustainable and that's enough. And starting to have incremental, okay, this year, I want half of my income to come from photography, and I want half of my income to come from the Known Project. So using those same tools in some ways, they really overlaid so that so now that we're on the fourth product for the Known Project, we can say, all right, at this point, do we want to continue growing and then see if I can replace income, or do I want to just keep, it gives me a lot of freedom to pursue photography because I still love photography, but my wiring is to pivot and to try new things.
Yeah. Yeah.
And that's part of what I want my life to look like.
Yeah. Gosh, I love that so much because I think so often we think the first dream is the dream we have to stay with. And then I think a lot of people feel really guilty when they are called to new dreams. I mean, they say entrepreneurs are the worst business owners, right? Because we're dreamers, we're idea people. And I just love you've built a business that provides you steady income, but it lets you pivot and change and try new things. And I love how you said the same principles apply. That's what I love about like kind of that blueprint, defining enough.
Yes.
Because when you want to pivot, you still have to learn how to price it appropriately and do all those things. And so I want everybody to go look at the Gnome Project. But I love your story so much. And we always end these interviews with one question. So I'm going to ask you.
Okay.
What is the best thing that you have learned about money?
Money, probably redefining what their use of money is for. Money is to make a living, and the emphasis not on money, but living. So for me, is this the living that I want to do?
Mm-hmm.
And then it turns out more money doesn't mean more living.
Mm-hmm.
And so it's finding that money that, what is the point of enough that living really happens? And so money is just a tool for living, and living is life. And working all the time for me was not life.
Yeah, yeah. I want to just put that quote like on my wall right now. What is the living you want? Yeah.
Yeah,
And it is just a tool for that. This is
right.
amazing. So I think you've given a lot of people permission to know that they can keep dreaming in their
Yeah.
business and growing it. And the one dream doesn't have to be the same dream forever.
Yes. And that's so exciting.
This is so good. Okay, everybody check out the Gnome Project. We'll link all the links below so you can find Kaitie, her amazing story, and just deepen your relationships by being known.